Okay, we're going to start this evening's meeting with signs. And first application sign.
Mr. Chairman, B&W Construction for a job sign.
Is the applicant present? This contractor sign, B&W Construction Corporation, Corp. General contractors and the telephone number. Board members, any questions?
No issues.
Any public comment? Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the contract to sign for B&W Construction Corp.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next application, please.
Sony, 50 Joe's Lane.
William Cullum.
White sign, black lettering.
Yep.
Oh,
Very basic.
extremely. No lid, no lanterns, no anything. Ham, comments?
No.
Christine?
No, lovely.
Brian, any comments?
Fine.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the storefront sign at 50 Jobs Lane for Miss Sony Home.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next application, please.
This application is for Vines and Branches, 94 Main Street.
Is the applicant present? Please step forward. Your name for the record, please.
Rita Winkler?
Excuse me. These decals are going on the window?
Yes, there's a vinyl decal on the window as well as a sign above the storefront.
So you're replacing impulse?
Correct.
Okay. Same size, same dimensions?
Same dimensions, exactly. Different wording.
Do you have a sample of the actual sign itself? Or is it your...
It's on a digital proof there on the application.
So you're saying this is your sign with the vine?
The one above the middle, right, above that, where
What's
the
the
yellow
color?
highlight
What
is.
about the color?
It's a forest green. I had attached a business card to give you an exact color of what the color would be.
Just a color.
I just have this. We usually typically need a color rendering that shows the actual sign being imposed on the building.
Is it a vine green? Like a dark vine green?
It's a dark vine green, exactly, almost like black, green black.
All right. Okay.
Brian, you have any issue with regards to the card, the representation that the coloring will match the card?
No, I think it's fine.
Christine?
Nope.
Tam, any issue?
No.
All right. Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the storefront sign for Vines and Branches at 94 Main Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next application, Mr. Chair, is Delmonico's, Southampton, 268 Elm.
Hi, Ron Fisher is the applicant.
God bless you. This is a representation of your sign?
Yes,
Color?
that's
Font.
the colors. That's everything as we propose it. There should be another one of it on the building, so you can see we have gooseneck lights.
Do you have a sample of the gooseneck lights?
They're the standard ones. So
Are they
there's a picture there on the side.
You don't have a more detailed example of the goose?
No, it's the standard gooseneck, and that's a side
Standard
view.
is relevant.
Okay.
It's
They're white. I don't know what it is that you're,
Are they 6-inch
They're-
white?
5-inch circles.
5
on the-
inch?
Yeah, 5 inch
Okay.
on the side.
Ham, questions?
I don't have any issues with that. It used to be the former Village Hall, you know, that building.
Was it?
It was moved from here before this one was built. Might want to take care in the detailing of it.
Okay.
Christine?
No, I have no objection.
I'm fine with it.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the application, the storefront and windows for
As well as the gooseneck.
268 Elm Street, Delmonico's of Southampton.
And two 5-inch.
And two 5-inch lanterns.
Gooseneck lamps in white.
Two 5-inch goose down
Oh,
lanterns.
2 5-inch lanterns, sorry.
That's okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you have a separate application for the windows, the window lettering? Or is it all on one?
The window lettering is etched on glass.
It's gonna be
Oh,
vinyl.
it's the same as
Same
that,
as this.
correct?
Same one, yep.
No issues.
Thank you.
That concludes our sign applications for this evening. First application, historic.
Chairman, the first application is for Calvin Klein, or Klein Residence, for driveway gates.
Dan Thorpe, landscape architect, LaGuardia Design.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience with this application. So, the gate has been redesigned with 1-inch gaps and 1-inch vertical slats. So, it meets-
Dan, a question I have. That's, so it's 50% transparent, is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
You can turn it around so the camera could see as well.
Much a good improvement.
This is an actual mock-up that we built of the gate. So that's a full-scale mock-up.
Brian, any comments?
No, I think it's beautiful.
Christine?
I think it's great.
Ham.
No, you addressed the issues. Looks very nice.
Transparency is what we're looking for. We thank you for the time. It is an historic district. Zach, do you have any comments with regards to?
Nice job, Dan.
Thank you for coming back and making the alterations per some of the requirements that this board requested. We thank you.
Thank you, guys.
The application is positioned in the historic district, so this evening we could not make a decision. We have to adjourn the application so that it could be a written decision by our council
At the next meeting.
at our next meeting. Do you have any questions? Any public comment on the application?
Shouldn't need to come here at that point.
Okay.
It's a formality.
All right, great, thanks.
Okay.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to adjourn for written decision.
I make a motion that we adjourn the application of Calvin Klein for the 2 sets of driveway gates for written decision by our council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Our next application is closed for written decision by council. Motion to approve written decision by council.
I make a motion that we approve the application of Leslie Biddle at 257
To
South Main
approve the
Street.
written decision by council.
To approve our written decision by council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next application is Centel LLC. Attorney is requesting an adjournment.
Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn until 4/10/2013.
I know for the
Motion
record,
that
we
we-
do have a request written by the attorney in the file. Okay.
Is that motion?
Make a motion that we approve the applicant Sunel LLC at 257 Captain's Neck Lane. Request to adjourn until our April 10th, 2013 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. First application, non-historic.
Jacqueline Eaton Garland, 118 Burnett Street, construction of two-family dwelling. And pool house in pergola.
For the applicant, David Gilmartin Jr., Val Fritz, 2488 Montauk Highway, Bridgehampton, New York. Good evening.
Good evening.
This is my first time appearing on this, but I've had the opportunity to review your prior hearings and look at the board file. From looking at that, I think that there are 3 things that I took away. One, that the changes that were made architecturally last time were acceptable to the board. 2, that there was a lot of discussion about things over which this board has no jurisdiction, like parking, noise, rental, sales, those things. I think we need to keep this limited within your purview and under your jurisdiction to the issues that are before you, and all of those ancillary issues are things that, quite frankly, the Board of Trustees or some other board has to deal with, not this board. And third, that the board was concerned with massing of the house. With respect to massing, the first thing that as a zoning lawyer or land use lawyer that I look at it, does it meet the code? This house is under the height required of the code, meets the pyramid law, meets all setbacks, and meets the FAR. To me, the size isn't going to change. And that leaves us tonight with one issue, the architecture and how the elements of this particular house are set up such that it meets and is harmonious with the neighborhood. We have tonight Patricia O'Neill, who's going to get into the depth of that. It's not a lawyer's job, but it's an architect's job to talk about how it's harmonious and how it meets the neighborhood. And I would say Miss O'Neill has been an architect for 25 years. She's been the chairwoman of the Plandome Manor Architectural Review Board. She's been a trustee, or is a trustee for Plandome Manor, and has been on the ZBA of Plandome Manor, and has otherwise spoken and advised many different village boards. So she really knows what she's talking about. And she's going to have a presentation of the neighborhood and show you. And I think that there are two really compelling facts that she's going to bring out. And I don't want to step on her toes.
Hold on 1 second.
I'm sorry, I don't know how that even got on.
Okay.
Okay, I think it's under control.
Okay. Don't like beeping things going on during meetings.
The first compelling fact is that this is the only structure on this street that is going to meet the front yard setbacks of 30 feet. The only one on the street that's going to meet it. Again, take that into account with the size, but the only one that's going to meet it on the street. The second one, and something that she'll demonstrate, which I think is also compelling, is that with that being said, with the setbacks, that there are other two-story structures that have a lot more volume than we have proposed closer to the street. So if there's any argument that this is going to somehow crowd the street or be imposing on the street, I think that's completely undercut by that fact. With that, I'll call Patricia up, but I just ask you as she presents this to concentrate on those two factors. And again, the architecture with which we have proposed setting our structure back further to lessen its impact.
Hi, my name is Patricia O'Neill. I've prepared some additional information for you that I'll hand out. It was data that was collected from the village files. So if I can hand that out to you.
You want me to just hand it up for you?
Please.
Is this in your file already?
It was emailed.
Okay, should I stamp it just in case?
Yes.
Please. Stamp 2 copies, please.
Sorry, let me do it to the face. Sure. I think I'm just gonna leave this orientation. So, I gathered data from the village files of the Burnett Street block, both the north and the south side of the street. And the packet that's before you is the data that's been collected. And I prepared photographs of the street, both the north side of the street and the south side of the street, to a scale that's 1 inch equals 10 feet. Just to put it in some type of perspective, so it gives you an idea of the distance between the houses. And I was able to gather the distance between each house from the village file. As an architect, the biggest compliment that anyone can give me is when I tell them to go look at a house that I've done work on, either a renovation, addition, or a new home. And they go and they look at the house that I've told them to take a look at, and they come back and say, "Wow, the house always looks like it's been there. It doesn't look renovated. It doesn't look like a quote new house. It looks like it's always been there." And that's the biggest compliment that anyone can give me, and that's golden to me. And I'm not looking to make a statement or exercise my ego when I work on a project. And I'm very sensitive about respecting good design and classic design and the context I'm working in. And that's the approach for every project. Jackie and I have worked together in the past, and I'd like to think that she hired me for the Burnett Street house because our collaborations have always been successful and very well received. As an architectural project is always a process, and it takes much consideration and thoughtful analysis. And the first thing that I do is analyze the opportunities and the constraints of the site, and a review of the zoning code. And for the Burnett Street house, this is really the first house on this street that's being built to this, quote, current modern zoning. And the modern zoning is more restrictive than when a lot of the existing houses, when all the existing houses were built. So with that zoning data information, we begin to develop a program for the house. And in schematic design, we analyze the local context. We identify architectural characteristics and details of the surrounding areas. It's, I communicate with my client. We talk about design. We look at houses that we like. We look at details that we like. And then I develop rough sketches and ideas and plans and elevations and sections. And it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act of square footage and code requirements and aesthetics. And it's the same process, when we presented this design to you. We developed a plan and a design that doesn't max out on the lot coverage. We have an additional 575 square feet that we could add to the lot coverage on this project. We developed a plan that does not max out the floor area. We could add an additional 97 square feet to this house. We could have added an additional 8 feet to the frontage of this house on the setback, but we didn't. We made the design decision, again, based on the characteristics of the neighborhood, to minimize the bulk and to give up the floor area and give it back to the front porch, just because it was a friendlier design, a nicer design, a better design, a design that related more to the front porches on Burnett. We made a design decision to minimize the frontage on the 30-foot setback. And the only part of the house that is on the 30-foot setback is this 13-foot wide section. This is the only part of the house that is on the 30-foot setback. Now, from the data, and I'll go through it house by house with you, but just to give you an overview, the average setback, I just want to be clear on this. The average front yard setback on the north side of Burnett Street, and that's the side of the street opposite of our house. The average front yard setback is 23.9 feet. So that's a 6.02 encroachment of the 30-foot setback. That's on the north side of the street. So just to give you an idea, our 30-foot setback is here on the model, to give you an idea. And then the north side of the street is way up here, just to show you graphically. On the south side of the street, which is the side of the street that our house is located on, the average front yard setback is 20.18 feet. So that's a 9.82 average front yard setback encroachment, almost 10 feet. So the average, on our side of the street, houses on the average are 10 feet in front of where we're proposing our building. So if you take the average of both sides of the street, it's an average of 22.08 feet. So it's a 7.92 average front yard setback for the whole street of Burnett, both sides of the street, just to take it as an average. So that's almost 8 feet. So the houses on Burnett Street on the average are going to be 8 feet in front of our 13-foot section of the house, and everything else falls beyond that. Again, so we made a design decision to limit the bulk of the part of the house that is on that 30-foot setback to maximize the porch. Again, it's an open, one-story structure.
I'm sorry, what is the existing setback?
The existing setback,
Present.
oh, for
Present.
the current house?
Yeah.
The current house, I believe, is at
30
29.5
feet, right?
feet.
Let me see.
It's
Yeah.
about the same.
It's right,
Okay, but it's a one-story house, right?
the current house is a one-story house.
Right, okay. So it's basically the same place it is, but it's growing up,
Labeling now.
right?
Correct.
Okay.
But still,
you're-
if you look at that, but I'm talking about the average of
I
the street.
understand.
Your comments have to do with impact, correct?
Yes,
You're saying
Streetscape.
that the house is set back further, therefore creating the illusion of less impact to the street.
yes.
That's your point.
That's your,
So, but on.
but the
on-
difference between your front yard setback is between 6 to 8 feet.
On the average.
On the average.
Yes,
average.
yes,
That's,
Right,
okay.
yes.
okay.
All right.
Thank you.
But what's different from the current house that's there is we have stepped the bulk of the house beyond that 30-foot setback. So our front porch is an additional 1.5 feet back from the 30-foot setback, to 31 feet 6 inches. But then the bulk of our house, the 30-foot wide section of the house, is at a setback of 37 feet 6 inches. So we've made the decision to step the house back.
Your streetscape there, is that to scale?
What?
The elevation
Yes, it is.
is to scale from the street?
To the best of my ability,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes. I mean, they're photographs taken along the street. They're photographs that were based on information that's available in the file, to the best of my ability, to scale each house to
Okay.
what's on the surveys, some which are not
And
dimensioned,
it's,
so,
it's inclusive of both the 1- and 2-story houses on the average?
This is all the houses on the block.
Right, so it's
and-
inclusive of everything.
Yes.
And the surveys are
Absolutely.
what we got from the building department.
Okay, thank you.
If you guys, do you want us to take this up so you can?
We always want to do a spin so everyone can take a look at that. So I don't know, maybe you can do
I'll
a
spin.
but I,
little pivot and just give a,
Thank you, David.
thank you.
And so this is the side and,
And the other,
this
Yeah.
is, and then, do you want to see this?
for the record, please. Thank you for stepping as Vanna White this evening.
So, on the north side of the street, there are currently, there are 7 homes. One is a 1-story building, one is a 1.5-story building, and 5 are 2-story buildings. And on the south side, including the existing 118 Burnett, there are 3 1-story homes and 5 2-story homes. I think it's, what's important, you know, when I pulled the files and looked at the setbacks at the existing 2-story homes, for example, 95 Burnett, which I estimated the height of the ridge to be 30 feet, and that's conservative estimate. The front yard setback is at 20 feet, so it encroaches 10 feet.
What you're saying is the single-story house that you had was pre-existing and conforming as opposed to some of the 1- and 2-story buildings on the block that are
That's correct. I mean, it's,
pre-existing and non-conforming, is that correct?
that's correct, yes. I mean, the existing house encroaches 1/2 foot onto the front yard setback, but yes,
But you're still doing a 2-story addition, only 7 feet within the setback requirement,
Yes.
so to speak.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
But if you, what I want to point out, the existing 2-story houses, they have more volume closer to the street than what we're proposing. And I think that's important to know, because what I think has been the big concern is just the volume, and the volume of this proposed house. And again, we did minimize the volume. The section of the house that is on the setback, the 13-foot wide, is at a height of 26 feet. And the 30-foot 6-inch, again, is set back at 37 feet, 6 inches from the front yard.
Got it.
Okay.
I did want to point out on the, I did an overlay of the existing house, there's the existing house, and overlaid the proposed home. And on the west side, we've actually pulled the house in from the side yard, so we've reduced actually the setback. I'm sorry, we've actually increased the setback on the west side of the street. And actually, we've also increased the setback on the east side of the street, the closest to the street. So the house is actually narrower than the existing ranch house on the street frontage. But it does step back towards the rear. But the bulk of the house on the street has been reduced from the existing.
Mm-hmm.
Anything further?
So the characteristics of our house, and I think, we can go through these one by one, and I can identify features of each house that is similar to characteristics of what we're proposing.
Are we referring to design, or are we referring to, I think overall, the consensus has to do with volume and mass? If you want to go through each individual.
It's design. I mean,
Okay.
it's you can see the double gable that we're proposing is similar to other houses on Burnett Street. Number 130 Burnett has a double gable with a louver in the attic. Very similar. As a matter of fact, this looks like it could be a 10 pitch too, if you look at it in relation to our house. So the roof pitches could be similar.
Are you referring to single story?
I'm referring to a single story, but I'm referring to form.
Okay.
There are other gables facing the street. There's a portico gable. There's sort of an interesting blend of characteristics and styles and volume, roof forms. There isn't one dominant feature on Burnett Street. But the most important thing that I just want to.
Are you saying that most of the houses are not eclectic in nature?
Are most of them?
Are there details within some of those houses that you're copying or something?
Well, no, it's again, there are, the shingles, the natural shingles, the white casing, the
key finishes.
the horizontal frieze boards, feature windows in attics, painted front doors, the privet hedge at the street, the screening privet hedge, shutters. So there are elements in probably all in all these existing homes that there is some front porches.
But you would
hip
agree
roof.
that taking all those elements and putting them in one structure would not be
Oh, no, that would be a mishmash. I mean, that would be,
Okay,
but I'm just
thank you.
saying that there's nothing on this house that is so out of character
Got it.
with
Thank
what
you.
is on the street.
Just to make reference to that, because I understand and want to make sure there's clarity. First and foremost, your address towards the mass has to do with your setbacks. That you're stating that based on the fact that your home is set back a little further, the impact of the street is going to be less, and therefore should not be overwhelming and out of character for the community. You're saying in terms of the design, you have features and a design detail which mimic a lot of the personality of homes that are within that community, and therefore it's in design, it's not out of character. Is that correct?
Correct.
Just giving the
Condensed version.
condensed
I
version,
appreciate
the
you-
cliff
yes,
notes of
Absolutely.
the dissertation that you just gave. I know we had some public comment, and we also had a few letters that were in the file.
Okay.
Before you proceed further, because I'm sure that there are a few things that you probably would want to address. Let's address the comments in letter. Let's see where our public comments are, and then it gives you the opportunity to come back for
Sure.
rebuttal.
And I
Is
do
that
have
okay?
a rendered elevations.
Wonderful. If you can also give that to
You
her
show
so
that
she
to
can
Oh.
first show the camera, show the people, and we can address them.
Sure. Thank you.
Letters, please.
Okay, so this is from Angela Scott, executor on Francesco Scavabulo.
I'm sorry, what's the date on
The
that?
date on this one is, it's requesting to be read into the March 27th meeting. There is no date as to when the letter was read.
Thank you.
Written, excuse me. Dear Chairman Highsmith, having viewed the revised plans proposed by the applicant for the property located at 118 Burnett Street, I am writing to voice our strong opposition to these revised plans and to urge the board to deny approval. We appreciate their attempt to bring down the scale, but it does not go far enough. These revised plans still propose a home that is hugely out of scale with the homes on our block. I press upon the board members to make a visit to the street and see firsthand the size and scale of our homes. This house would clearly stand out as a mega mansion amidst the lovely cottage-style homes on our block. I trust you will table the proposal and require further revision by the applicant. Okay, and then the next one is from Joy Marks, and this one says, Dear board members, I realize that the meeting for 118 Burnett Street is tomorrow night, but I and my husband will not be able to attend as we are both recovering from surgery. When I first received the plans for the new house, I was excited that a new house would replace the existing one, and the plans that were sent to me did not reflect the relationship of how my house and the house at 110 Burnett Street would be affected. I told the new owner and her architect and that I had no objections to the new home to be built, but that was before I saw how it affected the block and the neighborhood. But I feel and agree with my neighbors that the height of the attic is too high and would loom over the entire block, not blending into the existing landscape. While I would like to make everyone happy, I think it is best to lower the roof line on the plan so that we can all live in peace and harmony. I am standing with my neighbors on making the house more harmonious and less obtrusive by lowering the roof line. They would still have a very beautiful new home on Burnett Street with this small change and not give up any of the space in the house, pool or pool house. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay, and then the last one here is from Susan Sable. And this is dated yesterday. In my last letter to you, the ARB members, my letter that was read aloud on March 13th, I wrote that hopefully I'd be standing before you tonight. But unfortunately, that has not turned out to be the case. Fortunately, my doctor says I can go with certainty to the next ARB hearing that will hopefully take place on April 10th, and I've already bought my airline ticket, so I'll be able to speak at this hearing. I saw the video of the last ARB hearing that took place on March 13th and watched as 3 of the 4 ARB members, including Chairman Curtis Highsmith, Christina Redding, and Brian Brady, Hamilton Hose wasn't present at that hearing, requested new drawings and visuals, including streetscapes, visuals that superimpose the proposed house over the house that's still standing, a landscape plan in relation, and other visuals, all including dimensions from Patricia O'Neill, the architect for Jacqueline Eaton Garland, property owner of 118 Burnett Street. At the end of Architect O'Neill's presentation on March 13th, there was much public outcry from neighbors, as it turned out too many letters to read out loud. Only one letter was in favor of the proposed design, Since then, this neighbor has reversed her decision and signed the petition because she now understands why the rest of us have opposed. Also, every neighbor on Burnett Street, except one, she could not be reached, has signed the petition citing Southampton Village Code 116.30. Almost every homeowner within 200 feet has signed the petition, as well as those on the surrounding streets, Meeting House Lane, Little Place Road, Pine, and Walnut Streets. Many have also written letters opposing the proposed design. Many would like to be here tonight but can't due to illness, funerals, work-related issues, etc. But that doesn't mean that they care any less and want you to know this. Since March 13th, even more petitions and letters have been mounting up. How could a potential neighbor insist on proposed plans when every neighbor on the block and most surrounding it are opposed to it? Or how could Mrs. Eaton Garland build and sell for a quick profit when she leaves so many of us suffering the consequences at our expense? I know this isn't the ARB's job to consider these kind of circumstances, but the situation begs this question. We understand the purpose of the ARB is to protect the neighbors, to modify an application which, although it satisfies the zoning code, will minimize injury to the neighbors. Neighbors like me who will lose all sunlight and leave me without privacy. If the proposed plan for 118 goes through, it will disrupt, intrude, and create disharmony on the loveliest street and secret gem in the village, and that's implications. To quote one of your members at the hearing on February 27th. Modifying shouldn't mean only minimizing or even removing some ostentatious details, but more importantly, addressing the bulky mass design and height proposed for 118. That's the biggest objection from all the neighbors, the elephant in this hearing room that you're still not completely addressing it. Hopefully the 3 ARB members who haven't walked our block since last meeting have done so by now. At the end of the hearing on March 13th, Chairman Highsmith concluded on behalf of the board that architect O'Neill didn't have the votes to proceed at this time. In other words, the proposed designs for 118 Burnett Street were voted down at this meeting. Chairman Highsmith also mentioned to architect...
Just to let you know, no, that's not the case. Continue.
Also mentioned to architect O'Neill in his conclusion that although neighbors don't actually vote, there is validity to their public outcry or tone. As of end of day today, the visual respects requested by the ARB on March 13th have not been made available to the 30-plus neighbors, including myself, who have signed the petition citing Southampton Village Code 116.30 and wrote many letters, including myself, against the proposed design. There's only one day left until the next ARB hearing on March 27th. Even if the requested visuals with dimensions show up at the Southampton Village Building Department today, I think it's fair to say and reasonable to conclude that it wouldn't leave neighbors time to see and review and comprehend and check to see if the dimensions are correct on the streetscape and other requested visuals, including the landscape plan, which I never got a chance to see in the context or otherwise. So I'm asking that 118 Burnett Street be adjourned until next ARB hearing on April 10th. Respectfully yours. P.S. For the record, I promised architect O'Neill I'd mentioned how good it was of her to email some revised drawings for the last hearing on March 13th, since it wasn't compulsory she do this. However, the only way I could see them was to walk into 71 Hill and look at them there. Diane at the office advised me only property owners or architects have the authority to send copies. Unfortunately, I didn't have the choice since I'm recovering from a serious illness 2,500 miles away. For the record, I also want to mention that I never received an email containing photographs of the model house, though architect O'Neill thought she sent them to me. And although she sent a summary twice, it was sent in a way that no computer except maybe hers could open. But I appreciate architect O'Neill's efforts. We've offered to get together with Mrs. Eaton Garland to discuss and/or negotiation, something we could all live with. She called me after the last.
Okay.
Okay.
You're getting into dialogue
Okay.
that has nothing to do really with the architecture of the.
Okay. Last one is from Jonathan Foster, and that's dated today, and it says, Dear Chairman.
Jonathan Foster being.
The building inspector, I'm
Thank
sorry. Dear Chairman and board members, the building department continues to receive mailings and emails from concerned neighbors that continually state, and this is in quote, they have not had time to review the plans on file in the building department. The plans have been in our office
I'm
for
sorry,
almost.
he's saying that they have not had time?
This is their quote, that they have not had time to review the plans.
I
This
see.
is their comment.
Thank
He
you.
says, the plans have been in our office for almost 3 weeks. This is more than enough time allowed for this application and proposed plans to be reviewed by the public. Meetings are not scheduled around people being out of town, state or country, or surgery, though they may recover and get their health back. If they are concerned, someone can represent them.
Thank you. Any public comment on the application? Please step forward. State your name for the record, too.
My name is Rebecca Martindale, and I live on Burnett Street. Thank you, Architectural Review Board, for taking this application seriously. And thank you to Ms. O'Neill and Ms. Garland for their patience with this. I'm also, like all of the other neighbors, concerned with the harmony and appropriateness of even this most recent design, although it is an improvement. And I think, like everyone else, it's not the square footage that concerns me, or the number of bedrooms, bathrooms that I know she wants to maximize, but it's that it's unnecessarily uncharacteristic of the neighborhood. 2.5-story home does not exist on Burnett Street. And also, I wanted to clarify, is this a 2-family house?
Again, property usage is not the
Because there's two
responsibility of the ARB.
It's like 2 front.
It's not a 2-family. I know that issue's been raised.
I understand.
It's not a 2-family. They're
But
just
again,
2
it's-
separate entrances.
But I
again-
must stick to what the
Okay, no, I just
jurisdiction of this
wanted
board is.
clarity.
And its use is just not, nor if it's owner occupied,
Are you
rental.
confused by the 2-entry system?
Well, that's another thing that's inconsistent.
Just-
Yeah,
go
I was
ahead.
going to bring that up, is that also does not exist on Burnett Street.
Okay.
A 2.5-story home, 2 entries. I don't see that anywhere else on Burnett Street. There have been, as you know, because you've worked with these people, recent renovations and modernizations in the modern code era. 105 Burnett Street. I think Roger Blau owned it at that time. Joy Marks, whose letter was read, modernized and upgraded her home. The home on the corner of Pine and Burnett has also been modernized and renovated. All of those homes were done in a way that was harmonious and appropriate with the characteristics of the neighborhood, and there was no square footage sacrifice. They're beautiful homes that I'm sure would get a nice price if they were sold. So even as investments, nothing was compromised. So all I think we're asking is that the board and the owners did a great job working together on those homes, that trend continue. Burnett Street is a charming, quiet street. It's part of the village, really. It's 2 blocks away from the main street of the village. All summer long, we see people walking, biking. I think the street enhances the charm of the village. And I think to keep that, you're going to have to make sure that the message is sent that this is not a speculator's free fire zone. You can just come in and build whatever you want on this street. There is a tone that needs to be maintained, which is that of, the quiet gem in the village. And I think that this is a really important application because you're not just deciding about one house. In the next 5 to 10 years, you're probably going to see 4 or 5 houses trade hands. And this is going to set the tone for the whole block. And we want to stay looking like Southampton Village, not the Jersey Shore. That's our concern.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional comments? Please step forward.
My name is Richard Kearns, and I live at 130 Burnett. And my concern all along has been the verticality of this design, and I just think it is it's not going to fit into our street. And I think if we look at buildings in the village, if we just look at the buildings on our street and in the village, we can see how this is going to appear. My problem with this design is, as I said, it's the verticality. And on our street, there are strong horizontals created on most of the houses. Either they're low, like mine, but most of them are bigger. And they have, which is fine. I've never had any objection to these people's square footage or anything like that, or even the height. It's how you get to these. It's the nuances of how you get to these things. And the other houses have a strong horizontal at the above the first story, and they have a strong horizontal at the second story. This house has these two gables which go straight up, and so you get the full verticality, the impact of the full vertical mass right on the street. And at the very first meeting, everybody was talking about, there was another proposal before our proposal. It was on Post Lane, and I went to look at those houses, and they're big houses. That's a big, and the houses there on that end of the street are pretty big. But the people were objecting to one house in particular. I've kind of forgotten the exact address, but it's this house. Because this house goes the full 35 feet right up to right there. It meets it right at the street level. And that's what this house is going to have, the full 35 feet. Maybe there's one gable ahead of it, but it's going to go straight up. And if you look at the other house on the street, the newer house, which is also almost that height, but it gets there by stepping back. First, it has a strong horizontal, the front porch, and then it has a strong cornice line at the second story, and then the peak of the roof is set way back from the street. So the impact of this is greatly lessened, and I think that is what we want to see on our street, on Burnett Street. I think these are just simply architectural concerns that can be addressed, and they have to be addressed by this board. This is the only board that we have that can do this, and I think it's very, very important. There are all kinds of ways of camouflaging mass through cornice lines, through roof lines, through gambrel roofs, which really cover up big boxes and quite a bit of volume. There's another house. I've sent Ms. O'Neill pictures of these buildings because I thought they were pertinent to what we're trying to achieve here. And there's one house in particular on Walnut Street. I can't get this little house. This little house is a two-story house, really, but it's the two stories are camouflaged. The second story is camouflaged within a gambrel roof, so you really you're getting an appearance of a smaller building, and you have an attic window. And this house is all under, I think, 20. It's around 26 feet or under 25 feet, I estimate, by measuring shingles and counting the shingle, the shingles. I've been able to determine that most of we don't have any houses on our street that are, as tall as this house, but I realize that there's some that are almost. The four squares do get fairly high, but they get to that height, after they have a stoop, then they have a front porch, then they have a second-story cornice line, then they have a pyramidal roof, and finally they get up there to 30-plus feet. So the impact is far less than what it will have on this street. And I've also thought of ways how could the impact be lessened. And one of the ways would be, of course, for them to ask for a variance so that they could put some of the front porch more in the street, similar to other buildings on the street. I mean, I would support something like that. But there's been a little bit of confusion about the revised plans, referring to John Foster's letter. That's because people did think that this was going to be a revised plan. Because at the last meeting, you mentioned that you didn't think that there were the votes for approval of this design, but then, so I think people were expecting a revised design.
This board didn't request it as such.
I know that.
Okay.
But people thought that there might be a revised plan, since you pointed out to the applicant that they didn't seem to have the votes that night. There are also some other. I also wanted to let you know that we have we have almost.
Richard, can I just interrupt and say that often we have a quorum, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we did not have the votes.
I'm
It
just
seemed
quoting
that
what
they
Mr.
were
Highsmith said.
unsettled by some of the comments. I wasn't present.
I know.
Marty Pastor, we've just lost, unfortunately. So, what I will say, though, is that I remember what you're saying, your comments now that you're saying are very minor in what they were initially. Can you point out what your differences are with the improvements that have been made, or changes that have been made, I should say?
Well, I said all along, I was very concerned at the very first meeting, because you seemed to focus on a chimney, and other people seemed to focus on Palladian or round-headed windows, when I thought the overall design was wrong.
Uh-huh, okay.
From the start, because I think it's too vertical. I think the emphasis is
You said
on
that at the first-
verticality. Yes,
Yeah.
and they didn't, all they did was change some details. They took away some windows and some brackets, and they simplified the pattern, and they lowered the roof a little bit. But that still doesn't get us to something that's going to be compatible on our street, I don't think. And I think that this board, according to the code, you do have the power to deny applications when they don't fit into the neighborhood and when they're not harmonious. And I think this is the case where this application, if they're gonna continue to present this particular design, I think it's wrong for our street. And I also say that a lot of everybody, we have many more people that have signed the petition. In fact, it's almost 100% participate, 100% of the residents on our street have signed a petition objecting to this design. People on Meeting House have signed this petition, and I have the signed petition here with more signatures. And also, I have a letter that the Russos wrote, which was not read into the record. They live at 104 Meeting.
I don't have it, I'm sorry.
Okay.
If
well
it
then-
hasn't, I'm sorry, if we haven't received the letter, excuse me, sir, we have not received the letter of the building department, and it was not requested that we read the letter into record. We cannot do so.
Okay, well, they did write a letter objecting to this design.
I saw the
Understood.
letter that was emailed this afternoon. It's pretty
Oh,
basic.
okay.
Yeah, so.
If you have something with regards to petitions that you wish to submit, we'll accept that for the file.
All right, fine, I'll give you those. And also, our street, almost everyone does live on the street, but there are a lot of elderly people, and they want to come to the meeting, but they're just physically not able to do it.
Understood.
Is it all right if I just give you the last page of this petition, because it's the same page, that you have the front page already, or do you want the front page as well?
If you said you had signed a signed petition by,
Yeah, here.
okay, so all the signatures are on that petition?
Except some that have been faxed. Alan Marks faxed his,
Okay.
Vera
Okay.
Chow faxed hers.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Any
you, Richard.
additional public comment? Please
Oh,
step.
one thing, I hope we can adjourn this meeting, because all of these people who said they didn't see the revised plan would want to see this, so that they can, and we would like to have the opportunity to really look at this and measure this and make sure that, what we're seeing is,
You're referring to the
It's in scale.
streetscape?
yeah.
Okay.
Because
Thank
these
you.
will be at the building department, I presume, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Are you proposing to submit that to our file?
Sure.
Okay. Please step forward. Your name for the record, please.
My name is Noelle Goddard. I am in residence at 125 Burnett Street. So I spoke here last time addressing, as you mentioned, things which are beyond the scope of the ARB board. I think it's a common frustration of neighbors that you want your community voice to be heard. I'm a little disappointed that you didn't allow Susan's letter to be heard in full and cut her off because of what she was saying at the end of her letter. She's very concerned because she's the immediate neighbor impacted by this decision. I'm really here tonight to say that I appreciate Ms. O'Neill's attention to both the left and the right, the east and the west setbacks, which were not true in the first set of plans, and Susan hasn't had a chance to see those yet. Again, the immediate neighbor impacted both in light and privacy. I think she would gain a lot from being able to review the new proposal, so we appreciate the fact that it's been addressed. I think her major point in her letter, if it had been read in full, would have been that she really wants this to be stayed off for one more meeting so she can be here in person to speak as a member of the community who would be directly impacted by the vote of the board. I don't mean to unduly delay the architectural plans, et cetera, of Miss Eaton Garland. But her concerns have been throughout all of this that she's on medical leave. There's really no physical way she can be here. And she wants just a chance to be able to review the current drawings and streetscapes and other things, which I understand there's been a lot of attention of detail put into, to be able to try to accommodate the neighbors and all of their complaints and other requests. So I would just ask the board at this time that if there was a possibility of taking a sort of medical stay for one more meeting, that she would like the opportunity to review the plans, as would all of us, because obviously there are new features, particularly the east and west setbacks, which we haven't seen yet. And it would be nice if we had the same opportunity.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Any rebuttal comments?
Just, I have several comments, and then Ms. O'Neill will have them. I just remind the board, in a general sense, when we look at these projects, we have to consider zoning. We meet the pyramid law. We meet the FAR.
You know,
we meet the
being here,
setbacks.
the fact that you're here and the fact that you're presenting, the assumption is that you meet all
But
village
that
requirements.
seems to be lost in the comments, and I think it's an important factor to bring forward again. Ms. Marks made a comment in her letter, and I would just direct your attention. This is her house, right? It's directly to the east of ours. This is her survey. It's an old survey. This part of that structure has been expanding significantly. There's no survey, there's no CO for that. It's done. She's criticizing our expansion. However, I'm not sure that she got all of the legal requirements for her expansion.
Did you just rat on her?
Yeah, you're really throwing me mud.
Seriously?
Not exactly. I leave that to you.
Well, we're not an enforcery board,
if-
so
if-
we're just an aesthetic board.
If the neighbor wants to criticize,
We
then
understand.
it's-
And a
I
lot of
think
the letters that I read this afternoon, some of the ones that didn't make it in time, were just mudslinging stuff. I think we should get to the application.
The,
and
the,
take a
the
look at
second
the
thing I would
changes.
say is, one of the previous speakers brought up 82 Pine Street as an example of something that works. And this is 82 Pine Street shot from Burnett Street, right? So you have this, that's gotta be at least 32 feet high, 2.5 stories, you know, major significant structure, 9 feet from Burnett Street. That's not what's happening here. We are set back significantly. And that, you know, that seems to be lost here. What was done, I think, far exceeds the other houses on the street. And you have that in front of you, and I don't want to belabor that point. The village in the last, you know, it's got to be, what, about 10 years now, or maybe less than 10, has had two significant changes to their zoning code. One was the pyramid law, and the other was the FAR. To address these situations, the light and the air, we meet those. I would just ask Ms. O'Neill to come up and talk about the architecture of our structure as it fits into the neighborhood on a rebuttal.
Okay.
I'm the architect, I'm the professional. You know, people can hold up pictures of houses that they love and hate. I'm presenting to you a house that is appropriate for the neighborhood. Just to address Mr. Kern's concern about horizontal elements, there's a frieze board that wraps the entire house. There's a frieze board that runs along the roof line. It cuts the rear gable. It wraps around. It wraps the front gable, and it wraps around the entire house. The windows are ganged in such a way that there's a horizontal quality to the mullions. There's a continuous horizontal beam that wraps the porch. There is significant horizontal quality to this house. There are gables on Burnett Street. Ms. Mark's house, according to the existing survey, which doesn't reflect the house that's there, is in violation of the front yard setback. So Her house and our house is set back from Ms. Mark's house. We are further back than Ms. Mark's house. There was a comment about the height of the houses on Burnett Street. And in my opinion and my estimate as a professional, I've calculated 82 Pine, 69 Little Plains Road, 113 Burnett, 104 Burnett, and 98 Burnett. I'm sorry, 104 Burnett at 32 feet and the others at 35 feet as a conservative number. There are other houses that have a vertical quality on Burnett. We can look at number 98, has a very strong vertical quality to it. Of course, 82 Pine is a very wide gable, very close to the street. Ms. Mark's house, again, at number 124, has a very strong, flat facade. There's a very low pitch. You read that as a a very strong bulk encroaching on the front yard setback. This house is not out of scale to other houses in the neighborhood. This is not a mega mansion by any stretch. This is not a 2.5-story house. This is not a 2-family house. We're proposing appropriate character to the neighborhood. This is not the Jersey Shore, and I really take offense to that comment.
I don't think anyone can make a comparison to Southampton Village to the Jersey Shore.
And I just want to make a comment too that the side yard setbacks on this house and the front yard setbacks have never changed from the original application. It's never changed from the original application.
Let's see, board members, any comments? Ham, I know you were not here at our last meeting. Have you had the opportunity to catch up?
Yeah, I have. First of all, the materials that you're using, just for the record, the fact that you've gotten rid of the fireplace off on the right side as you're looking at the house from the street is an obvious great improvement, as well as the clarifying of the fascia, soffit, friezes, types of material you're using, and so forth. I am concerned about not the term verticality, but the massing forward onto the street. It's a very horse and buggy road, if it's even got enough room for a buggy. It's small, it's quaint, it's nice. We'd like to see a house dissolve into the background and become part of the neighborhood and so forth. And I think you've made a lot of improvements here. Some neighborhoods can't stay 1 story or 1.5 stories forever. There has to be a certain amount of expectation for change and adjustment in any neighborhood. And I think it's unfair to categorize certain areas as needing to remain without flexibility of that. I've seen a lot of neighbors of certain streets, like Richard, you mentioned Post Lane as an example. I've seen many of those residents fight the very houses that they've actually ended up building themselves. And it's ironic, very ironic. So with that said, however, with this particular application, I think you've made, for its size, significant changes. I'd like to see a further change in the ridge line, a reduction of the facade ridge, if you will, the front ridge, the one that's closest to the street. I think you've already made a reduction of a few feet. I'd like to see an improvement there. But I am, at this point, satisfied with the adjustments and changes that you've made to approve this application this evening.
Brian?
I went to Burnett Street and walked by thinking of the last design, and my first impression was this house is not going to make it. It's just right on the street. It's got this big mass, and then I started thinking, if only the front porch could wrap around, maybe that would help it and things like that. But I didn't realize the setbacks, and I think your presentation tonight was really excellent, and it really sort of demonstrated all the thought and thoroughness that went into studying this street for our benefit, and I really appreciate that. Knowing that I didn't know that every house on this street was encroaching in the front yard setback. I was thinking all along this design is going to be right up at, Miss Mark's house next door, which, that front appendage is ridiculous looking, I was like, why can't that have a gable roof on it? So I've kind of come full circle on this. And I agree that there's horizontal banding in here. I think I think the people in the neighborhood that are objecting to this need to really see this to understand that this house, the scale of it is fine with the other houses in the neighborhood. And I appreciate your efforts. I do have one little thing, though. These oval windows on the sides. I don't see them anywhere on Burnett Street. Not a deal breaker. That was the only thing that stuck out at me.
We appreciate the attention to detail, and as well as the patience it takes sometimes to hear your work is not being appreciated. From an architectural standpoint, and also the owner of any property, you try to propose something before a board, and it feels like the community is against you. At times that can become overwhelming, and we appreciate the work and the patience and the tenor of the discussion, because at times it can become elevated when you get aggravated. So
As well
we
as the
appreciate
community involvement, too.
and the community as well. We appreciate that everyone was very cordial, polite, kept the insults to a minimum, but but you were able to firmly and aggressively discuss your concerns to this board and to the community. So we appreciate everyone's involvement. It tells you how much this village really cares about what goes on for the future of Southampton Village. This particular project, I've been on the board years. I've been chair now for the last going on 6 years, on the board for over 6-7 years. And I've seen projects like this where, and I'm glad that my counterpart here mentioned a community like Post, where we had months of discussion. I mean, literally months of drawn out arguments and discussions and rude behavior, and at times shutdown of a meeting because it became extremely agitated. So this was a breath of fresh air compared to what we've seen in past times. But after the finished product, everyone just takes a big breath and say, it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be. And I really think that that's the situation that we're involved here. The village is going through a phase of evolving, and I think the evolving has to do a lot with more family coming in here, and they need room to grow in family. Again, usage is not a precedent of this board, but that's just giving an idea of where the direction of the village is going. We're seeing more primary residents coming into the village rather than just all second home residents. So you're going to start seeing the evolving of more robust homes, which will suit a family's needs, and we have to be flexible for that growth, but sensitive also to the architecture of any community. I'm still very animate about a landscape plan, which I don't think has really been.
Yes, landscape plan's been submitted.
Well, going over what will be there, what won't be there. I think that taking care of some of the areas where obviously the most important part of the impact to the neighbor to the west, address some of the privacy issues that would be of her concerns as well.
May I speak?
You can. I'm just addressing those things. Some of what we can have on record what those concerns will be. The setback, I think, is going to be fine for again, that was a fantastic presentation that I don't think anyone in here acknowledged and recognized that you are sitting back. It's not that far, but I think it's far enough where.
You want to walk through the landscape?
But at this point, I think we should walk thoroughly through the landscape plan. And I'm also very cautious about the second story railing there. I know that accidents happen and doorways end up where they're not supposed to be, and people have a habit of stepping out on an area where they're not supposed to step out on. So I would want to see the height of that railing where it's lower, not within code, so it's not approachable or not accessible.
understood.
Board members, would you agree?
I would.
Or if we omitted it?
I think you're fine with it as
I
a
think
feature.
for a feature, it's fine.
I
It just,
would pull it
we just
down so
worry
it's
about.
not usable.
Yeah.
Because of the privacy issues with the
We've had
14 feet that you have.
Accidents happen, we'll give the benefit of the doubt, and doorways and being there,
And
and
modifications of plans that cause the accidental usage.
Exactly.
Don't want anybody to go falling over it, not that short.
so the
Landscape?
height of that railing being in it, where it's non-conforming for accessibility.
What is the height now?
Height of the railing?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't even think it was at 36 inches. I think it's set at 30 inches. Again, I haven't done
If it's
construction.
30,
drawings.
then you're okay. But
36
there's no
is-
door that's leading out there, is that correct?
There's no door.
Okay.
Again, been here long enough to see things have happened.
We don't want an addendum that shows a change for we do not want to see an addendum attempt at looking at a window that's changing the doorways and then causing usage of an overbearing balcony. Okay?
Okay, we can go over the landscape plan, please.
The landscape plan has been on file, but I will walk through it with you. What we're proposing is a privet hedge, similar to, as you can see on the photographs, many houses on Burnett Street. There is an existing privet hedge on the east side that we're planning to fill in. So to have a continuous privet to create a privacy screen.
For record, what would the height of that be?
On my plan, I'm calling for a privet hedge that's approximately 3 to 4 foot height as a planting height. Again, privet will grow 2 feet a season, so as a planting height, 3 to 4 feet. So it screens. We're mostly concerned with screening the automobiles in the front of the house. So as a planting height, right now 3 to 4 feet. We're proposing a pea gravel driveway with a flush metal landscape edge. So the driveway is going to be very flush, not a hard surface, but a gravel surface. We're proposing, again, just perennials and perennial garden and annuals along the.
Screening? Can we stick to screening?
I'm sorry, screening, yes. So there's screening, the privet hedges is along both property lines, both east and west
So
property
you're
lines.
proposing a 3 to 4 foot privet surrounding the property.
Yes. Now, I just want to say that on the west side, at Ms. Sable's house, there are trees that are at least 60 feet tall. I mean, there's very mature trees on Ms. Sable's property already, but we're planning to add just more screening so that it screens the windows in the living room and in the dining room, just for privacy.
Okay.
Brian, any comments?
No, I did go see the mature trees over there, and they're pretty dense, actually.
Yes.
And, I think the privet along the front's gonna really help. I don't have issues with it.
Yeah?
Very good.
You're required to the whole time. I know it's not in a historic district. Do you have any comments?
No, I think the architecture is compatible with.
Thank you, Zach.
Very politically correct word, compatible.
Really, that was
Any further comments before we conclude? Please step forward.
Actually, this is for Ms. O'Neill. I wanted to clarify my Jersey Shore remark. That was not meant as a derogatory comment on the design of the house. I was just referring to the attitude of build whatever you want
got it.
as much as you want.
That's okay. It's a nice apology. Glad you guys are all making friends. Except for you.
I don't
Richard.
think any of us took the Jersey Shore
Yeah,
reference
we're just-
serious as
I just want to say that Richard Kearns, that the Joy Marks's addition to the front, she got a variance for that, and you all approved the design of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. Anything further? Anything further from the board? Anything further from the applicant?
Nope.
All right. I need a bunch of plans. Give me the most updated plans, please.
Okay, when you want to make a motion?
All right. Can I get a motion on the application?
After you.
I make a motion that we approve the plan for Jacqueline Eaton Garland at 118 Burnett Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good luck. Mr. Chair, next application.
Hold on 1 second. Sure there's going to be a disruption, so I just want to allow the disruption.
These you want to enter into the record.
Please.
If you can take those, David, to the building department tomorrow.
No, we just put them over here on the side.
You can put them, just do me a favor, make sure they make it into the record over there. Sometimes they can get
No.
lost in
They're
translation.
gonna go over here.
All right, thank you. Good.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, next application is Tom Selby at 150 Elm Street for 1- and 2-story additions.
Hi, I'm Sally Van Ark. I'm Tom Selby's sister-in-law, so I'm representing him.
We have to apologize for the absence of Christina Redding. Unfortunately, she's not feeling well, so I just keep her in your thoughts.
Thank you.
A lot of bugs are going on.
Hey, Sally, how are you?
I don't accept that at all.
I'm Wayne Verspor of Young Verspor Architecture. This is my first time here before the board.
I'm sorry?
This is my first time here before the board.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We'll try to make it painless.
Yeah.
You're not building a 3-story building, are you?
No,
That's why you're in a good beginning.
Yeah, the problem was, you have all the images of the house here. So, Sally's brother-in-law has MS.
No, he has Parkinson's.
Parkinson, I'm
So we're
sorry.
putting a bedroom on the
First floor? First
yeah,
floor.
off the
Okay.
kitchen, on the north
What's-
side. Yeah.
And
You got a ZBA approval for this,
Yeah,
correct?
so we've got
Okay.
all the
Yeah,
approval.
so all
Got
the
it.
approval. And we're just concerned that it's handicap acceptable. And we needed to open up the front. So the only thing we're doing is adding a bedroom to the north side and adding an addition to the front. So at the same time, we wanted to actually upgrade the house and re-shingle it. It has an asphalt roof on it now, put a cedar shingle roof on it, copper gutters, new windows, and clean it up. So basically, the house is like this now with ornamentation on front. We're just gonna clean this up, follow the addition that's on the back to the front, and add a bedroom to the side, and then he wanted a little porch off of that.
That's very cool.
You're like,
It gives you
I think you had more fun doing that.
Logos.
Great.
It's logos.
So.
Have you been practicing
No,
that?
I do it
Building
with all
blocks.
It's
the
like-
other projects.
have
But
you ever
it
tried the
makes it very
Rubik's
easy
Cube?
to understand that we get the picture of the roof.
That looks great. It's
And
very
there's
moving.
even made a
I-
cedar shingle.
I drive by that house every day.
Yeah.
I know Tom, and he's a very good member of the community and so forth.
Yeah.
I wish him luck. It's a very subtle
His membership in the
addition.
community is not a not
Yeah,
a
well,
reason why we're
Nevertheless,
very-
it's a
accepting
very,
his
it's a
application.
very sensitive addition.
Yes.
And it looks nice.
We understand.
I was really impressed. I'd love to see you do it again.
These are, they have the, I don't know if they're in the packet. It's the before and after.
We have them.
Oh, yeah. That's it.
That's it.
Brian, any comments?
Yep, I think it's a great
Graham, any
improvement.
comments?
No.
Any
It's
public
great.
comment on the application? Very modest addition. We appreciate good,
Tom's modest.
and good job on your first time before us.
Thank you very much.
And just repeat that.
Love those
at
blocks.
some point. I love those blocks.
Aren't they cool?
They're very cool. It's the way you did it with such a flair.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Motion to
I
approve.
make a motion that we approve the application of Tom Selby at 150 Elm Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next application, please.
Next application is from Santiago Trigo, 307 Flying Point Road for
I have to
conversion
recuse myself
of
from
a
this.
garage into a living area. You sure?
Okay.
Are you the
Are you
architect?
the architect? Okay.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we
We've lost our
obviously don't
quorum.
have standing for form, so we can't even adjourn the application.
We're gonna have to close it and
Yeah.
then,
It
wait for
can't
a
even be
number.
called, unfortunately, because we can't adjourn it.
Okay,
I
so
do
we're gonna
apologize.
strike the call on Santiago Trigo, 307.
So we need
Flying
those
Point Road.
applications for members.
Next application is 47 Polanski Street Corp. to construct an accessory garage. Is there anyone here from 47 Polanski Street?
Pulaski Street.
Do you want to?
No, he's here. He's here.
Woke you up?
Michael White.
Yeah, give it us.
Affidavits and.
For the record, Mr. Chair, I have the affidavit of mailing and also the affidavit of posting entered in.
Okay. Mike, proceed.
Michael, go ahead.
I have a house that's going up on 47 Pulaski Street now, and I wanted to add a garage and to block out Riverhead Building, which is behind it.
You're not over budget? You sure you want to do this?
Getting close.
Yeah, figured.
I can't finish the inside of it.
You will.
And I don't think it affects any of the neighbors. The neighbors to the left, they have 30-foot evergreens, and the house to the right is falling down.
All right, this is the rear. The garage is going to match the house that you're building, correct?
Yes.
Same color, same material.
All cedar with white trim.
So
All
the rear,
natural.
what's the height of the accessory structure?
I believe it's the limit. I think it's 16.
16
yeah.
feet.
Brian, any comments?
No, it's fine.
Pam?
That looks good. What's your budget?
2,000.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve?
Motion to approve the application of 47 Pulaski Street Corp. for construction of an accessory structure garage.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Next application is for Wickapog Realty LLC for 127 Wickapog Lane, construction of two-story single-family dwelling with detached garage.
Is the applicant present?
Thank you. For the record, Mr. Chair, affidavit of mailing, affidavit of posting for Wickapog Realty.
Thank you.
And photographs. Thank you. Mini set.
Proceed.
This is a lot that belonged to Robert Gianos, and there's covenants on the lot to do white siding. It has to be a farmhouse. It has to have a post and rail fence. It has to have 4-foot privet in front of the, behind the post and rail fence, which isn't on the pictures that I've given you because I wanted you to be able to see the house. It's a farmhouse. It's 34 feet high. It's approximately 4,000 square feet. It has a 2-car garage in the rear, and it has privet hedge surrounding the property with a pea grit driveway. and bluestone edging. And I think it's, a lot of the houses in Wickapog are farmhouses that are similar, that are white or natural shingle. The house next door is a white farmhouse, which you could see in the other picture.
Yep.
And I went through a lot of changes with Bob Gianos to get this to where, you know, he thought it was harmonious in the neighborhood. And the siding would be white cedar with that are dipped in white solid paint or stain.
Like a Malbec?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the second photo of the ones I gave you, you could see the next door neighbor's house. That's also a farmhouse, and I've sent these pictures, these renderings to the neighbor, Michael Katz, and you know, he sent me back an email. He says, you know, that he loves it.
Hearsay.
Stricken.
So this house exists, this one doesn't.
Correct. Yep.
The garage, wow, it's quite a ways back there, isn't it?
Looks great. He drove you crazy doing this, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He made me take pictures of about 25 farmhouses. It's a tough board to deal with.
You go, Bobby?
The only difference is, the columns are going to be square for some
Sit
reason.
around, I got it.
Yeah.
Sure, you went back and forth on that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Ham, comments?
No, I think it's appropriate. I know the street well, and it looks very nice. I like
Thank you.
everything done to this. Shutters, details, I like the light cuts. Good.
Brian?
The only comment I have, it's hard to know the size of your shutters, but they should be half the width of your window.
Right.
So if they're that way, then I'm fine with it.
Yeah, they will be.
Any public comment on the
While
application?
we're on the subject of shutters,
Oh,
well, just as your neighbor has no shutters on their attic window, I
Take
don't
'em off.
think that this attic window.
Although 3 houses down, we did
I
a
don't know about
restoration.
that, But apropos of the shutters in relation to the window size on the roof, those shutters, I would like get rid of them.
Okay.
Also,
Really?
the return,
Although
at the
on
base-
3 houses to the west,
you don't like the shutters on there?
3 houses to the
They
west
can't
in the
close.
historic house, they do have shutters on them. And
okay, well, they might
No.
have stuck them on later.
I know it's your pet
But-
peeve, eh?
shutters.
Your neighbor, the base of their attic roof has these little returns of the roof,
Right.
which leaves that facade on the second story to be clear up into the attic gable, whereas you carry that across the entire
Right.
length of it, and that
Good
sort
point.
of sits right on top of your tops of your windows, and it seems like an awful lot of wood and a lot of molding, and so
We'll keep-
that's just like a subtle thing to keep that open.
Well, the one
We all
problem I
have
had with
thumbs
that was
Yeah.
the houses started looking very similar. And they
Uh-huh.
started looking too similar. And that's one problem that I had with that. And I actually copied this from a farmhouse that's in the village. You know, a lot of village farmhouses have the return on the second floor. So, you know, ideally, you know, the two clipped parts would have been good. But, you know, you start having, they start looking like twin houses after a while.
Yeah, it's a subtle thing, it's just
I have no issue with the attic shutters.
aesthetic
Ham?
choice.
There's some with, there's some without. I do agree with Brian that they need to be appropriate to the sizing.
And size,
And
yeah.
I'm sure they will be. I know your client is particularly detail oriented.
I saw there was public comment, so just give us a second, and if we could take public comment, please step forward.
Good.
Hi, my name is Duran Flynn. I live at 145 Wickapog Road, and a couple of things I wanted to find out about. Really, this house is a 34-foot high
Ridge. Yep.
and the new house that was built next door is 32, and all the other houses, most of the other houses, are lower because they're older. So I was wondering if there was any way it could come down 2 feet.
They have a right to build higher even, but,
Right,
and
I
there is
know, to
pretty good
35.
distance there between the 2 houses.
Okay, it was a question.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, because it's very sensitive area, it's beautiful there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
You said you had a few questions?
Yeah, I
where
had
you
a
live.
couple of questions. first of all, I wasn't really sure who the owner of the property is.
Irrelevant and not.
Okay. So then, the other question I had is when I looked in the building file, the site plan on the architect drawings seemed to be different than the 2 lots that are being excavated for the building. So I've taken pictures of the excavation, and they go across the 2 lots that are there. And the
You're stating that the site plan is
is
incorrect?
not, well, I don't know. I mean, I show you this. This is, what's in red is what is being excavated, and the site plan is
Thank
actually
you.
just the lot in the center of the architect's plans from the last time that I looked at the building permit. So I wasn't sure exactly where the house was positioned.
This is from 1974.
It doesn't matter. I mean, there are 2 lots in the red.
Well, I remember you coming forward because Bo Robinson's father used to own this property. And I remember on this application that's next door, it was about, 5 years ago now, right?
3.
3?
3 years,
Yeah, 3 years ago, and you came up with the same argument,
but
yeah. And
no,
then we
it wasn't
resolved
this-
it.
No, it was never resolved, but I've
It was a
learned to live
legal
with it.
issue. We're looking at the
I-
house as far as assuming that it's, not assuming, it's not a
Well, we,
assumption.
Okay,
well,
but
no,
what-
it is.
what-
We
what
just,
I-
you have, excuse me, just want to clarify things here. This board has to go under the assumption until we are told from the building department, who's our enforcery board.
Oh, so
that it's
this
no
is
different.
really a building
We're
department
just an
issue?
aesthetic board. So if you're referring to the
Yeah,
actual
but when you
dimensions of
get-
the lot, that has to go through the building department, and they will instruct us if it does not meet the requirements. We're just looking at the aesthetics, landscape plan.
But doesn't the site plan
No.
have anything to do with you? No.
Not with this application, not with the building permit as it is. This is not a situation that was like a pyramid issue that went on at Moses Lane. This is a
No,
whole
I
different
understand
ballgame.
that. But what I'm saying is they're building on 2 lots.
3 years ago, you
instead of
addressed
one
it.
lot, And
Understood,
It doesn't
but
have anything to do
you're
with
referring to a legal matter that has to be handled it's outside of our
Are
jurisdiction.
you okay with the aesthetics of the house?
yeah,
You are? Okay.
Yes.
All right, good. And as far as you're okay with the difference that there's a 2-foot difference between the
well,
existing?
no, but,
You understand what the distance is between?
well, that's my point, is that if they're really building on just the center lot, it's
But
going
they're
to be
within
really
their
close.
right of 35 feet.
Right.
Okay.
But, okay, so I don't know.
Okay.
Because once you approve it, then they're gonna start the foundation tomorrow,
That
and
would be
then what?
correct. Again, that's a direction. You would have to go to the building
Okay.
department.
So it doesn't matter that the site plan is wrong on the plans that you're approving
You're
tonight?
stating that. It hasn't been determined that they're wrong. The building department has to make that determination. That's a department you would have to discuss that with.
If you feel uncomfortable with the site plan, you should go to address the building department directly on it. We're an aesthetic board.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Okay, thank you.
I think we're in limbo with regards to the shutters. And I know you brought up an element, but I don't think it's, so we're stuck on the shutters on the attic.
I'm not really stuck on the shutters at all. I'm fine with or without. I think it's something that the owner of the property will eventually decide on. There are houses with shutters in the attic windows and the fenestration
Issue?
up and
Challenges?
down, and there's some
No?
without.
Motion to approve.
Maybe it's the owner's.
Make a
I'm sorry,
motion.
were there any more comments before I proceed? All right, motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the application of Wickapog Realty 2 LLC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And our final application for the evening.
Final application, Mr. Chairman, is Joanna Schechter, 5 High Street, for construction of a 2-story house, conversion of a garage and a living space, and convert an attached garage into a pool house.
Good evening. Jose Jimenez from Southampton Engineering for the owner. First, I want to clarify the agenda.
I'm sorry?
first, I want to clarify something on the agenda that says that the application includes the conversion of the garage into living space. That application was approved on your meeting on February 13th for the conversion of the existing attached garage, and I believe we didn't include that on the building application.
You're saying we approved the
conversion
garage before the conversion of the house?
We filed an application to convert the existing attached garage into habitable space, which you approved on February 13th. In the agenda, it says that we're applying again for the same permit. We already have the permit and are under construction.
So it's a clarification of the
It's a
agenda.
clarification of the, of the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
I have some small.
Mini sets? Okay. So what you're saying is the agenda correct should be the construction of two-story house and the conversion without the conversion?
Detached garage into a pool house.
Thank you for your little clouds of clarification.
No problem. If you go to page number 3, we're proposing a small addition on the first floor.
Yeah.
Create a mudroom and a small little deck.
How many square feet?
Approximately, let's see, 6 by 8.
48.
48. On the second floor, we have what we're calling bedroom number 4 is actually a storage now. We are creating a gable to be able to convert that space into a bedroom. I want to also mention that.
Is that the is that the clouded area on drawing number 2, section 2?
No, that's the
second floor.
That's the existing elevation. Not the proposed. The proposed elevation you'll see on number 4.
Page 4.
Page 4?
Page number 4, correct. So we're creating that gable to make use of the space that we have there. We're not adding any more bedrooms on the page number 3, the first floor. When you enter the house to the left, that bedroom is being converted into a den. We're removing the closet, the doors.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Can we go to drawing 4 for a second? Which elevation shows the gable?
The number 2, south elevation. I mean the south and the north. The north elevation shows the gables further back.
Connector gable, if you will.
Correct. On the south elevation, because of the setback restriction, we're creating the gable from the 30 feet setback further back into the property. So we're not encroaching into the 30-foot setback.
Drawing number 4 is mislabeled. Number 4 should be proposed south. I mean, there 2 and 4 are proposed
yeah,
south.
They're all proposed.
I'm sorry. One is the north. Yes.
One is the north. I don't know
yes.
which is which.
North will be the
number 4.
The number 4, correct.
So number 4 is north. Number 2 is south.
Correct. And we're proposing basically the same kind of detail on the top of the.
Question: why are you proposing this thumb sticking up out of the middle of the house like this?
The gable?
Yeah. Have you considered keeping this flatter? Or?
Well, it's now flat. It's now flat, but it's only like 5 feet. It's a flat roof there that goes across and connects.
You mean the difference between the flat roof and the new proposed ridge is 5 feet?
No. The interior space on the bedroom number 4 that is now a storage area.
I'm looking at your proposed south elevation.
Correct.
Page 4, which is actually looking at this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Right. Brian, are you seeing that on page 4?
So you're proposing this for again, usage is irrelevant, but it's butting out for storage. Is that what you're stating?
No, it's a storage now. It's storage now. We're
storage now.
Changing it
into a bedroom. We're not adding bedrooms. We're converting one of the bedrooms downstairs into a den.
Okay.
So you want high ceilings in your bedroom.
Correct.
That's what you're
So
proposing.
why is this? Why is there a louvered vent hatch there?
The existing house. They all have that little louver there.
Oh, so this is an element that you put in.
Yeah.
So,
Brian, comments?
The other thing that we're proposing, we're also proposing converting the garage, the detached garage into a pool house.
tell you what, page 5.
Basically replacing the garage door with siding and windows, and on the
North elevation, you're
north
putting in
elevation, we're proposing an additional window
French
and
doors?
French
Oh,
doors.
okay.
Correct.
Brian, comments?
I don't have a problem with the garage pool house. I'm just trying to figure out a way to get some order into this. It's like all these roofs crashing into each other.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I
Well,
mean,
the original design of the house is in that manner
know.
now.
Where is
so-
this house?
It's on High Street. If you go up,
on the
West
corner of
Prospect,
High
straight
and
on
West
left.
Prospect.
it's like
Straight
they
on
built
left.
the detached garage, they connected into
Yeah.
a house. They have a little flat roof.
Yeah.
It's like a
It,
5-foot bedroom.
it
It's
really
very-
jars out all over the place.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
I guess
uh,
it's in keeping with the existing house.
That's
Well-
exactly what we think. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, we couldn't find any other way because I mean, we have the.
Well, can we, it's still really dominating the main house ridgeline now. A lot. I know, I realize you're trying to make it into a bedroom, but what's your
Yeah,
clearance
well,
there?
we're still at 25 feet.
Huh?
We're at only 25 feet.
I understand, but the,
We're matching the pitch. We're matching the. I mean, it's difficult because of the existing shapes and volumes and all what's going on with the existing house.
It's just there. It's just out of nowhere. It just pops up there, and I'm sorry. Oh, yeah.
What?
Animation. It's
oh,
okay.
I'm sorry. What about a Dutch dormer up there? Soften it, something.
Something.
Dutch dormer, if you look at the proposed, I'm not sure if I'm reading the right plan, on sheet 4, proposed south elevation, is this correct, its label?
Yes.
Number 2. Is there a way of folding that back to soften or make it feel as if it's submissive to the original ridge lines, even though indeed it's legally can be higher and so forth?
I just think the gable.
Forward fold, you know?
As you're looking at the front, which is the west elevation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of the gable roof simply rising back up higher.
It seems like it's like coming out
If
of,
it were turned 80 degrees so that you were looking at the peak of it, that wouldn't affect the ceiling height of that livable space inside. It's the roof above it. So if that roof projected back with the gable fronting on the front
Correct,
rather
yeah.
than.
In other words, change the pitch?
It would still pop up out of
It
there.
would
rather
pop,
than-
but
You
it
will
wouldn't
turn it
be
around.
quite
Yeah.
the-
Yeah.
It would be more noticeable, I think.
I think, yeah, I was
More
gonna say, I think it'd be
noticeable, yeah.
more noticeable.
and a Dutch dormer would be more noticeable. So it's a tough spot, But, that's what we're here for.
I'm sure there's public comments while we're trying to digest this. Is there
Yeah,
any
the
public
room looks
comment?
like it's
Please
packed.
step forward. No, there's public comment. Your name for the record.
Davini. I
Okay.
live at 40 High Street.
Okay.
This is a dead-end street. I think the total number of houses on this street are maybe 6 or 7.
It's 6.
This house is on the corner of West Prospect and High Street, which sort of like gives it 2 fronts. And I know that you're an aesthetic board. Okay, so this is a new application. This renovation keeps building. Growing and growing. First, it was a conversion of an attached garage to a living space. Now they're adding, I guess, this new thing in the center to create another bedroom upstairs. And then they're changing the detached garage into a pool house. Well, there is no pool now, but I'm assuming that that will eventually be. So my problem is bedrooms and parking.
And they'll probably come to your husband's board.
They very well may.
Where you can make that comment.
So, actually, no.
Take it out of the
My
kitchen.
thing is landscaping, because I
Okay.
don't want
Really?
cars in the road. And you have to have parking spaces for X amount of bedrooms. And so I know that they're not gonna have it. They're taking away all the garages. They're gone. So there has to be parking inside the property line for cars. And that has to be landscaped. And I believe that's an aesthetic issue, is that?
That's correct.
To a degree, yes.
Screening.
Our screening, and let's
Screening,
just, so
I
that
guess.
we acknowledge the purposes of why this board looks at screening. This board looks at screening when it comes to privacy issues.
Yes.
When there's an opportunity for the new construction to impede on a neighbor. Also, we use it to mask maybe some of the mass of whatever is being constructed. But those are the reason purposes of it. You're saying you want to mask it to hide cars?
No, no. I know that there's code for bedrooms versus cars.
Okay.
And-
Which is not
and-
before this, not the precedent.
I understand. So I need to, and again, this project keeps growing. When I first reviewed it at the building department, it was this. And I don't know if the permit in the yard is applicable to this now. I mean, that's also not your concern. I'm going to go to the building department and talk to John, because the permit that's there, I don't think covers this. I think it covered the garage being converted.
Yeah, he's clarified that.
He's clarified.
I don't know, I know, but
Yeah.
the permit in the yard is not reflecting this.
I'd like
Okay,
to-
so
Frank-
just screening, bedrooms versus cars, that's all.
The
Screening,
site plan
landscape.
showing 5 spaces
Yes, correct. And
5 spaces where?
let me show you.
on the site plan.
Oh,
And
with
there-
the pool?
And there's hedging.
We actually have a permit for the pool.
You have a permit for the pool?
Correct. We're having 3 spaces here, 2 here, and by the building department code, we have to screen them on the street with hedges, which we're gonna do. And
Okay.
we're not increasing the number of bedrooms, we're converting 1 bedroom that is
I
downstairs.
know, you said to a den,
Yes,
and the pool house is not considered a bedroom?
It's not gonna be utilized as a bedroom. It's a pool.
not allowed
house.
to be. It's not
allowed to be.
It's not allowed to be used as a
Oh,
bedroom.
I know it's not allowed to be.
Again, usage.
I know it isn't allowed to be.
Okay.
Okay, that's all.
Do you have any other comments? Do you have any comments about the design, the?
Yeah, no, I don't like that thing.
Sorry.
Okay.
Do you like the existing house?
The existing house.
Okay, they can't hear you on camera, so if there's gonna be dialogue.
The existing house is very much in character with the house next door to it.
Which is yours.
No. Which
Okay.
is very much in character than
All
next
right.
door house, right?
Okay,
That's all.
all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, comments? I don't know, okay, I'll start. I don't know how you can address this thing just popping up out of nowhere. However, I know you're limited to because of design, but that's the reason why you're the architecture and I'm not. That's just seems to me odd. And again, seeing this house from realistically 2 sides, coming up West Prospect or wherever, and going down high, you're going to see this basically from all angles. I think it's going to be a difficult. Once built, it's going to be a very nice eyesore. Bottom line, Brian.
Yeah, I agree. Is there any way to connect the 2 buildings with a big cricket like that? Am I allowed to do this?
Yeah, we can.
And you would end up with.
We tried that, but unfortunately, the what we call bedroom number 4 is only like 4. It's almost 5 feet. A big cricket.
Connecting.
A big cricket may work.
No, you're really talking about.
The problem with the big cricket is that we have, if you look at the north elevation, you have the lower garage ridge, and then you have the higher ridge of the house. We can do the cricket, and then I guess we can try something like that. I don't know if it's gonna look
What
any
about
better.
aligning, as board members suggesting, aligning the head casing of the double side-by-side 6/1s so that creates an alignment with the ridge of the existing ridge of the garage and building up the ridge of the garage so that aligns.
You know, just to connect
That-
all that.
Yeah,
garage?
even that, and then a hip, rather than it being so sharp.
Something.
Fold it back,
Make,
make
So
it
it
just to
softens.
connect these two.
So it
yeah.
softens.
If you make it into like a Dutch dormer,
Well, if you hip it, you diminish a little more. You'll still have the height you need.
Mm. But if your window height's consistent, and this is a dormer coming off.
I mean, we can
You might
we
have
can
to do metal or
certainly
something.
lower the
Or you-
height
Well,
of
now,
the.
well,
you
actually,
do that.
now the window becomes higher.
gentlemen, rather than
Right?
design
No?
this, why don't we ask him for several
Yep.
ideas? And come back with us with some
I
options.
just think there are
I'd like-
ways to
We're
do it,
trying to
but-
help
Oh, I know,
the best
I
as
know.
we
I
can.
understand
But I'd like to look
But-
at the neighborhood and look at the visually of the house. It's the first time I've seen the plans.
I mean,
And I'd like to see, because it is sort of a gateway to a part of our village that is very
it's
important.
well, I don't like to use the word throughway, but it really is to get to Hill Street for a lot of people. We take that way,
It's
and
also it's an important area of the village. It's something you are doing a lot to the property. There's a lot of additive massing which is not aligning. So I'd like to look at the screening and also look at some options for that to address the issue that the neighbor has brought up as well as the other board members.
Okay. Is there any way that we can separate the application for the pool house?
No. If you want to go into the building department
It's a joint
pay for another building permit, you could separate the two.
Okay, but then we'll have to present it.
It's better to bring the
Separate.
clarity up
House
now.
again?
Just give me a second. Yeah, you would, in order for you to have a separation of the two, you would have to have it in, you just put it in a cup of water.
Really?
It's okay. You would have to have a separation of, and have two separate building applications with obviously two separate fees.
Understood. Thank you very much.
No worries.
So you're going to come back with a few options of cleaved roofs and lines and so forth,
At this
correct?
time, the board doesn't have a decision. So you're requesting this board to adjourn the application?
Yes.
Until the next meeting where you can make your
Correct.
adjustments. Motion to approve the applicant's request to adjourn?
I make a motion that we approve the applicant's request to adjourn the application for Joanna Schechter at 5 High Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's remaining are minutes, February 27th. They were approved, I thought so. And we don't have the votes for the March 13th, correct?
No.
All right. Motion to close March 27th meeting of the ARB.
Make a motion to close the March 27th meeting of the Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Board.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Have a good evening.